Three, two, one. Welcome everybody to our podcast, Take Your Breath Away. I am your host, Cham, and I'm here together with Mike, my co-host.
Hi guys, welcome. So before we start our main topic for this episode, we will have a short preview of what our campaign means and is about. So tell me, Cham, what is Take Your Breath Away actually about?
So, Take Your Breath Away is our campaign that tackles the pressing issue of vape addiction among teenagers, our chosen topic for this information campaign. Given that in the current times, the rise of teenage vaping is a growing concern among both teenagers and adults, we want to shed light towards this topic. Many myths and misconceptions are identified to contribute to the continued dangers of vape on one's body. In the status quo, the insufficient information presented to them is overlooked, thus influencing vape usage among teenagers, and we want to fill that gap.
The campaign will tackle the main topic of vaping by dividing it into three distinct categories: health, finance, and environment. You will see this throughout our scheduled 3 podcast episodes. So each category hopefully adds a little bit more knowledge to you, our audience, towards the two sides of vaping, its overall effects on the particular industry, and essential data and information everyone must know.
So you're currently watching episode 1 and we hope you watch episode 2 and 3. Pero Mike, ano yung initial impression mo or naisip mo kapag narinig mo yung take your breath away?
For me, parang nagulat ka or na-surprise ka, ganun. Di ba ganun yung reaction? Like, di ba? Parang someone or something took your breath away vibe. Something. Anyway, ikaw naman siya, ano initial impression mo?
Mike, first episode pa lang parang binibenta mo na agad dignidad mo. Pero I mean, gets ko yung point mo though. Medyo ano nga 'di ba? Parang nung nakita kita, pagpasok mo pa lang, pagka-open ka mo pa lang, you took my breath away.
Ano ba
In
yan?
all seriousness, I think when we put it in the context of our topic, vaping, medyo nakakapag-hint siya towards one of its harms. Yeah, basta parang ganun siya eh, 'di ba?
Grabe, taray naman nito. But anyway, the name is fitting for our campaign as it aims to discuss different aspects of vaping and both the positive and negative effects it has on the parties involved. So its goal is to understand vaping in various contexts, industries, and points of view to inform us why it has become prevalent in today's society.
That's absolutely right. And for today's episode, we will tackle the first category, which is health, with the title The Underlying Health Implications of Vaping Among the Youth. As you may have seen from the text below, or I don't know.
So before anything else, what is vaping ba? Ano ba yun?
Yung kunwari ka pang di mo alam, syempre nag-research tayo dyan. I mean, according to our bestie Google, vape is an electronic cigarette, commonly known as vape. It is a device that warms a liquid to produce vapor that you inhale. Vaping naman is, the process of doing it.
Oh, I mean, with the recent trends, vape did get the, oh my God. Oh, so I mean, with the recent trends, vape did get the world by storm, and it's just as common to see someone smoking a cigarette as someone who would like smoke a vape, diba?
Yeah, slay. Or not slay. I don't know. We don't know. And, so stay tuned to this podcast for you to know. We'll tackle that thought throughout this video.
Like slay 50-50, ganun ba?
Parang
So
ganun.
anyway, according also to my BFF Google, advertising for e-cigarette has been heavily aimed at adolescents. They were the target audience for everything, including the billboards, the packaging, and the actual product. Advertisements on social media were widely distributed. Diba? You can see it na everywhere na, like sa FB posts, IG stories, Twitter, and many more. Diba?
Yeah, I mean, most of them are teenagers talaga. Mga same age natin, Mike, no? Actually, in the Philippines, an estimated 2.7 million Filipinos use e-cigarettes or vaping devices. Approximately 1 in 5 high school students and 1 in 20 middle school students have tried the use of these so-called devices.
Grabe, 2.7 million. That's like ilang zeros din. Basta, maraming zeros. Pero grabe, 2.7 million, still madami. Sabi, di ba sabi ni Catriona Gray, 104 million Filipinos.
Hindi ko alam nandito na pala si Catriona sa harap ko. Pero Mike, I think all of these information still raise a certain question, no? Like, does smoking e-cigarettes provide more benefits that outweigh the risks? I mean, a lot of us, if not all, kind of know na e-cigarettes have benefits. I think na maraming tao yung may entry reason why they want to try or do vaping in the first place. So, is it worth it?
Actually, contrary to a popular belief, I think that's kind of a hard question because, as you said, there are both pros and cons. No, what we can do is maybe weigh both sides.
True, true. Let's dive down to the details rather, and be rational and very, very judgy people, so that our audience can listen to this, right?
Yeah. So let's start with the cons. Well, undoubtedly, it is still dangerous to make smoking part of your lifestyle, as it can result in numerous adverse effects, including the increased risk of premature death or serious morbidities, and developing major illnesses such as cancer or coronary heart disease.
And also, e-cigarettes can have a high nicotine content, a substance that is known to slow down brain development in fetuses, children, and even teenagers.
Actually, Cham, I've read this one article. I think it's one from a report by Makati Medical Center.
Yeah, I think dito sa docs, kayo nga sabi. Pero ano ba presabi ng Makati Medical Center about it?
Uh, did you know na around 87,600 Filipinos die every year because of tobacco use? Yun na.
Like, 87600.
Yeah,
8,700.
87,600, 87600. And I know that may be low for some people, given we're at a population of well over 100 million or 104 million to be exact. But still, 87,600 people is a lot.
Yeah, like 87,600 is more of like the population of a small town or, oh no, a town or a small city, right? So that's kind of a
Yeah.
lot.
And to imagine na that's per year, marami nga talaga yun.
So, okay. I think na sa cons, meron din ako madadagdag ulit doon. Part of why vaping is harmful to one's health is due to its addicting factor. I mean, as stated earlier, it contains nicotine, right? The same thing found on cigarettes. As it becomes more prominent among the youth, using e-cigarettes may normalize traditional smoking again.
So, bale nagiging gateway yung vape for traditional cigarettes? Ganun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why even if we can say that vaping is less harmful than cigarettes, there's still this likelihood na you progress from that to actually smoking what you deemed as more harmful by the end of the day. So, bali, you start with vaping, and then you end up to traditional cigarettes, which you've been avoiding all along. So, yung point, nawala.
Gets. Pero other than that, I want to dive down to like the pros kasi I feel like the media's constant ignorance towards the positive effects of e-cigarettes only make it as unchallenged information rather than something irrelevant which they were originally hoping for.
Yeah, I actually agree with that also. Like, we have to talk about both sides of the story talaga. Like, the media tries not to talk about the positive effects of vaping because they think na it might encourage people na parang to use vape, right? Which they don't want to do. But I think by not talking about those positive effects, people just get more curious on like, what is vaping ba talaga? Or like, what could vaping do for me? That's why they try it. So we have to talk about both sides to fill in that gap of misinformation or lack of information rather. So with that being said, ano ba yung pros, Mike, ng vaping?
So, according to our sources, e-cigarette adoption is actually an alternative way of being able to quit smoking for good. Because actually, such as report by Public Health England asserted, e-cigarettes are 95% safer than smoked tobacco. So furthermore, the organization presented data confirming that the vast majority of e-cigarette users are either existing or former smokers, with only a tiny percentage of first-time e-cigarette users.
Okay, so bali, e-cigarettes and other vaporizer products may potentially reduce the detriments of smoking when used as a short-term aid to quit smoking conventional cigarettes. or that the switch them may be as a use of long-term alternative that is less harmful compared to, those combustible cigarettes.
Yeah, but nonetheless, we have to take note that vaping and smoking tobacco share similar adverse effects on the body. Although vaping is less harmful than e-cigarettes, it is still not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, like it's important to acknowledge that vaping may be a good substitute for smoking combustible cigarettes. But it doesn't mean that you're completely on the clear na parang, wow, I don't smoke nor traditional cigarettes anymore. I'm healthy now. No, no, no. It's not like that at all.
Yeah, it's not talaga. So, in conclusion, there's no one right answer on whether the use of e-cigarettes would do more harm than good to an individual. Since it's really about the perspective you take actually. Diba? With that being said, with that being discussed natin, I think let's move on now into two of the more specific health areas that smoking e-cigarettes target. Let's talk about the effects of vaping to mental health and oral health.
Yeah, I think those are good topics, Mike. Like, actually, I've been wanting to talk about the mental health issue. I mean, the mental health section of this podcast. I mean, ever since we started conducting these researchings for the content of the episode, I've been really, really interested about it. I mean, the findings here are really like interesting, Mike. Like, let's talk about them for them to know.
Yeah. Okay. So there's one finding here that I can't seem to get out of my mind. Like, did you know that there has been a direct correlation between nicotine and depression? I mean, it makes sense, right? Smoking these things that contain nicotine is much like any addiction out there, which causes both damages to one's physical and mental health.
Weba? Like, I mean, I know a lot of people who tried to use vaping as a sort of, as an escape. Na parang it's a stress reliever, something that would take their mind off of things. So for them to actually try vaping and then the nicotine and depression being connected to each other, I don't get how that came to be. Like, where did that contradiction come from? I think there's only one answer to it, di ba? Parang misinformation lang talaga. Pero it does make sense, Mike, yung point mo. Like, vaping is just like any other addiction out there. It's just concerning how the talk on its physical health damages continually triumph over the talks regarding its mental health effects. I mean, both areas deserve just as much light as the other when we need to talk about the act as whole, right?
Absolutely, Cham. And then add to that situation of the current pandemic, and you get a formula for disaster. It is now beyond doubt that the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic is having a negative impact on people's mental health. Like, since the pandemic began, mental health issues have become a major source of concern dito sa Philippines, like especially students like us.
I think that's an important factor, Mike. When we try to identify what areas affect the overall mental well-being of students, considering both the current world situation which kids are put through and acts that they do, are essential data to understand why things happen. Okay, so to finally add actual information, did you know that despite the fact that nicotine has not been proven to directly cause mental health issues, there are peer-reviewed studies that have identified alarming connections between vaping nicotine and increased symptoms of depression and anxiety, as well as higher odds of having a depression diagnosis, especially among the adolescents. So this is just a connection to what you said earlier.
Oh. But however, according to a recent statement published that we found on personaltoday.com, smokers are smoking more due to the additional worry and anxiety the pandemic has brought about. The fact that younger people, those between the ages of 18 to 34, adopted smoking has as their preferred method of stress relief is even more concerning.
Yeah, so it's like misinformation all over again, no? So parang they use nicotine as a coping mechanism because maybe somehow it's like a placebo effect. Siguro, o baka kaya it just genuinely works for them somehow.
Well, actually, yung common misconception of e-cigarettes as a stress reliever could be rooted in the cycle of nicotine withdrawal. Some symptoms of nicotine withdrawal like include irritability, anxiety, and distress, and consuming nicotine temporarily alleviates these symptoms.
So baka ayun nga yung explanation dun, Mike, no? I mean, that's true, yung mga sinabi mo lang. Those are facts. Pero siguro like given na napag-usapan na natin tong info na to about mental health, para naman siguro yung sa oral health. I mean, medyo obvious yung sagot dun na parang, we use our mouths as the main entry point of the smoke. Pero can we dive a little bit deeper into it? Let's talk about the actual statistics that correlate to this and what actual diseases or circumstances may occur oral health-wise when we use these e-cigarettes.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting take on this topic. Buti na lang covered yung topic na yan sa research natin, no?
Because all those sleepless nights weren't for nothing, no?
Yeah, kaya thank you so much to our production team for making this happen talaga. Okay, with that being said, let's dive down to that question of yours, Cham. So actually, the possible risks to the heart and lungs are frequently highlighted in the cautions against vaping. A growing body of evidence indicates that the chemicals in e-cigarettes begin to harm your body exactly where they enter it, your mouth. I mean, san mo pa ba yung papasok yung vape? Anyway, the most frequent impacts of e-cigarettes use on oral health, according to the most recent systematic reviews, are mouth and throat irritation and periodontal disintegration.
Periodontal disintegration. Okay, I think I said that right. Not alone might can be exacerbated by nicotine. It is said that periodontal disease can be exacerbated by nicotine because it inhibits blood flow to the gums where it is smoked or vaped. On top of that, I have another research here that supports what you just said there. Okay, let me read it for you. Another research here that supports what you just said there was a research earlier this year in the journal iScience, where it stated that 43% of e-cigarette users had gum disease and infections in their mouths. Additionally, another study published in Science Advances concluded that oral microbiome of e-cigarette users without gum disease looked like the microbiome of people with periodontitis.
Grabe, parang pangalan ko din, no?
Maraming,
Di ba?
maraming medical terms ang hirap niya sabihin.
Oo. But anyway, and even the senior author of the study and professor at the Ohio State University College of Dentistry, Dr. Purnima Kumar, said that e-cigarettes stress the bacterial communities that reside in your mouth. And because they encapsulate themselves in slime, they become bad bacteria. And as a result, the inflammatory response is through the roof. With this being said, health experts urge people, especially teens, not to be fooled by any marketing strategies. State that vaping is a completely safe alternative to smoking.
Yeah, vaping still involves the use of nicotine, which together with other components found in e-cigarettes, can eat away the gum tissue and cause gum recession. Kind of a disturbing thought, to be honest, when you try to think about it and imagine it. Like, medyo di ko kayang isipin kung ano yung itsura nun when like your gums are very damaged because of it. Like, no po.
Ako din. But, Cham, may tanong ako. So, if
Anyway.
iinom ka ng orange juice, di ba yung ngipin mo ay mako-color orange? Di ba?
Oh.
So, if magsusmoke ka or magve-vape, ano color ng ngipin mo?
Paano napunta from orange juice to vaping? Pero I think trick question yan, Mike. Kasi kapag sinabi ko yung totoong sagot, baka huhuliin na ako ng student discipline committee natin. Pero all jokes aside, that's a good question since gums may not be the only one affected in terms of your oral health. Like the use of e-cigs or e-cigarettes can induce a dry mouth. So saliva is not generated. It's not generated when it helps to protect the teeth and maintain general oral health by washing away bacteria and other dangerous chemicals. So isipin mo na lang, Mike, yung natural barrier ng teeth mo, which is saliva, against bacteria and other dangerous chemicals, is more likely to not be there as much as in normal quantities. Therefore, a result of this is that there's also a higher chance of tooth decay and cavities to occur. So, well, if magkaka-tooth decay ka or cavities, magka-color black yung ngipin mo, edi black yung sagot. Disclaimer po, hindi po color black yung ngipin ko. So, safe ako.
Uwe, smile ka, Cham. Oh,
Hindi ako
naka-braces.
tuto. Hindi ako tuto.
Oh, di ba if magkaka-tooth decay ka, so, babaho hininga mo. Amoy nga, Cham, sample.
Nasa podcast tayo, marinig tayo ng maraming tao. Pero, ganyan ka pa. Anyways, well, bad breath is perhaps one of the more bothersome effects of everyday vaping. especially for those around the vapor. Although vaping normally has a mildly nice smell when like it's binubuga siyang ganon, the nicotine in e-cigarettes can make your breath unpleasant. So isipin mo na lang may kausap ka tapos biglang maamoy na lang ganon.
Oo. 'Di ba? Ang kadiri.
Uy,
So,
wag ka
okay,
dun.
so let's summarize all these information kasi parang ang dami na. So, all in all, what we've gathered so far is that vaping can contribute to the development of oral health diseases with the chemicals it contains. So, these substances causes damage and destruction mainly in the mouth, targeting the teeth and the gums. Moreover, we could also say that these things are not addressed immediately. There is likelihood for it to lead to severe oral diseases as well as long-term effects that will slowly provide torment to an individual.
Yes,
Tama.
that's right. Medyo ang tayo natin sa moment na yun, no? Nasabi natin lahat ng yan. So, ito yung summary nun for everybody listening.
Siyempre naman, talino natin eh. Okay, so Cham, I think it's time for us to move on towards the next segment of the podcast.
Oras naman. Oh, okay. Yeah, right. It's that time, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it certainly is. Because as much as we can assure that all of our information is credible,
Nothing compares to the actual brains and manpower that makes all of these information possible for us to see in the first place.
definitely. That's why we've asked two health professionals on their take regarding vaping.
Now, as much as we would want to have them here in our podcast, they want to keep their identity away from the public, which is fully understandable. It's their privacy, diba?
Yeah. So, for everybody's comfort, please do remember that all information provided in this podcast is fact checkable and all available for you to access online as well. We're just here to aid you towards the right direction and to ensure you that there are two sides to take note of. At the end of the day, it is your final take that dictates what vaping really is for you.
I guess with that being said, Mike, we could discuss the sentiments of these health professionals now, no?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can. Okay, so our first question to them. Wait. So we have some questions and notes for the health experts. The first question we asked them was, what is vaping? So they answered, vaping is inhaling and exhaling vapor produced by an electronic device. The vapor is mixed with flavor to make it more pleasant. And totoo naman, like adding flavors to like you smoke, parang nakaka-pleasant din, making it more addictive. Diba? Daming
And some,
flavor.
yeah. I mean, ang rami niyang flavor eh. Meron mga watermelon, mga ganon.
Yeah.
Meron pa mga ibang flavor na parang magugulat ka na, may ganon. But at the
Oh,
same time, siguro, no, it makes it more accessible to the people. Because I know a lot of people na, they wanted to try cigarettes, pero they can't because it leaves a bad taste in their mouth. Pero with vaping being able to leave that, that nice flavor or let you taste that flavor, it makes it more, accessible to them in the way na parang, okay, I can try this because, it doesn't have that bad taste in my mouth
oh,
afterwards.
parang yung favorite flavor mo ng ice cream, naging vape na. Parang ganun.
Grabe, di ba? It's, kung saan talaga siya napupunta. So, second question that we've asked is vaping ever safe in terms of health-wise? So, they said na parang vaping was originally used as a safe substitute for smoking. Later, however, unsafe practices such as the addition of harmful chemicals to the vapor rendered it unsafe. So, Mike, anong masasabi mo doon?
I guess they're right naman. Like, because of the harmful chemicals they added to the vape, parang it is still unsafe compared to like smoking traditional cigarettes, di ba?
Yeah, gets ko yung parang ang ganda on how meron siyang a dive back to why it started in the first place, why it's okay, why people generally accepted the idea of vape being out there. But at the same time, with current progressions wherein harmful chemicals were added, it rendered it really unsafe for people, no?
Parang ano siya, parang it's a safe alternative or safe substitute for smoking, but it is still unsafe. So
Yeah.
yeah. So our next question to them was, are there any advantages of vaping compared to smoking traditional cigarettes? They answered, vaping produces water-based vapor, which is thought to be safer than smoke produced by traditional cigarettes. So, ano comment mo dyan, Cham?
So, parang, tama nga, parang if ko-connect natin siya sa sinabi nila kanina, parang ayun nga, vaping produces water-based vapor. So, that's a nice ring, diba? It gives a nice ring. Na parang, oh, it's just water. Tapos, inano lang naman yun. Pero at the same time, it gives this parang sort of misconception na parang, it's just water. It's okay. It's healthy. It's just like, you're drinking water. Why not vape it, right? Pero at
Yeah.
the same time, since sabi nga nila, harmful chemicals have been added to the vape, it's really still unsafe all in all.
Parang magugulat ka lang na, oh, water lang to. Parang ganun. Ayan, may effects na pala.
Diba? So yun. So moving on to the fourth question that we've given to them. The question is, does vaping help people quit smoking? So they've answered this by saying na as a substitute to smoking, it was originally designed to help cigarette smokers quit. However, the downside is that younger people picked up the habit of vaping and it increased the probability of them becoming smokers later on. So Mike, sinabi na natin to kanina no? Na parang vaping is supposed to be okay or at least better than cigarettes, but at the same time, nagiging gateway siya nagiging entry point siya kung saan mag-vape ka ngayon, and then for some people, mag-vape ka ngayon, and then you're gonna transition to cigarettes, which is
Oo.
more harmful.
Parang naku-curious ka din, safer pala to. Okay, why not try the ano kaya, ba't kaya, not safer than vape pala siya, ganun. Diba?
Hmm.
Okay, so moving on to our next question. How do you treat people who experience the negative effects of vaping? They answered, take a thorough history on the circumstances that caused the patient to use vape in the first place, and take time to educate and explain about the negative effects of vaping and the steps to take to be able to stop using. So, ayun nga na like um they're experiencing negative effects. They're experiencing negative effects of vaping. Tapos, let's just dive a bit deeper why the background why they started using vape ganun. Tapos try to educate them what are the steps to how to recover ganun.
Yeah, I guess na parang it's really important for people to study how it happened in the first place para they can stop people later on from committing the same mistake. So understanding the history behind it, the causes and everything could lead to a much better diagnosis or could lead to a much better output community-wise in a way na parang at least now we know that these are some of the reasons why it starts and this is how we could inform others on why those reasons aren't really that valid to begin with. So moving on though, question number 6. Like how many patients have you dealt with vaping? Is it an alarming amount to where you are working at? Right. So sabi niya, it's about 5 patients a day. Medyo marami yan. Tapos sabi niya, it's about 5 patients a day. Yes, it is alarming because it is increasing in frequency, especially among the younger working group. So if you think about it, Mike, that's 5 people a day in one clinic. In one clinic. What more if we look at it in a national perspective kung saan every clinic out there? What if same lang yung 5 people a day nila? Ang rami.
Diba? Like five people a day, and that's how many days per month, how many days per year. My gosh. Tapos, di ba yung information kanina is 87,600 Filipinos die because of vaping or smoking.
Medyo, medyo nababalidate yung information natin
Yeah.
kanina based on experience.
Okay, so moving on to our next question to them. What is your, as a health professional, biggest concern with vaping? They answered, their biggest concern with vaping is that more harmful additives are placed in the vape that makes the habit dangerous. The devices are also not fully regulated, making safety a serious issue. So, ayun nga, it is unsafe talaga with all the information. It's unsafe. Kahit yung devices, parang may ano pa din siya, may mga like effects pa din yung device. It could like boom, ganun. Kasi it's, di ba, it's electric.
Di ba makikita natin ngayon na ang raming nasa online buying sites, parang, Shopee or other platforms out there that sells vapes. And given na not everything is fully regulated and safety checked, it can provide a serious safety issue, right? And I think makikita mo siya minsan sa Facebook yung mga vape na parang minsan sumasabog. So it's not only health-wise in terms of like the chemicals that go into your body, but rather the device itself. Then na parang imagine mo meron battery and everything and you're putting it in your mouth. Medyo nakakatakot nga din.
I've seen a lot din na parang nababurn yung lips nila because of how hot it is, how hot the vape is, ganun.
So moving on right now. So sa eighth and final question natin. Like what do you want to say to young people and teenagers when it comes to vaping? So ito, nung tinext natin sila about this, ganito sila nag-reply in all caps. Do not take up vaping. Sabi na, it is not safe daw at all. So medyo gets yung perspective nila dun as a health professional and having 5 patients a day, it is really concerning then.
Yeah, I mean, it's from them pa na stop, don't.
Daw
Okay,
talaga So we've tried to talk about both sides and these health professionals just solidified the conclusion. So by the end of the day, the general input that we could take from this is that vaping is really a growing concern in multiple aspects, even in health. It is only understandable that this would be the take of these health professionals.
So if we follow their advice or often not take up vaping as they deem it is unsafe, we could take all these information to make a sensible decision.
I mean, of course, we want to avoid what's overall worse for us, especially when it concerns medical bills.
Yuck. I mean, imagine tens of thousands, if not more, in regards of expenditure for these types of things.
I know, right? And talking about finances, wow, foreshadowing. We sure hope to have you join us in our next podcast entitled Let's Get Down to Business, the Vaping Industry.
This revolves around a whole another perspective on vaping. It's a talk about the finances concerned. That's why we hope you stay tuned and keep on listening towards our podcast.
3, 2, 1.
Take
your breath away. Okay, we're gonna work on that on our next episode. Okay, guys, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, make sure to go to our social media pages, take your breath away, and even in this episode, posted in the YouTube, hit like and subscribe. Okay, bye guys.